All right, why we get hungry. Why is it, right? I'm hungry now, right? So it seems obvious, right? You go past the bakery, you smell that aroma, right? And you want that cupcake, you want that brownie. Lunchtime comes around and you're starving. But in this video, we like, why? What is actually starting this? What's actually causing this? Well, it starts in the stomach. And by the way, that aroma you smell, there's two types of hunger, which we'll talk about in this video. There's that hunger that your body needs for energy, and then there's that hunger that you get just for pleasure, solely for pleasure. All right? I can hear dogs barking in the background. They may be hungry also, right? All right, so here's the digestive system, and seems obvious that it should start in the stomach, because the food enters our stomach, right? When we eat, it goes down the esophagus into our stomach. Let's get our pen ready over here. So, right there's our stomach. Right? All the food enters our stomach. So a lot of people think it starts in the brain. No, actually, it starts in the stomach. So then there's this. Here's a vocabulary alert. Let me write it here. We'll say vocabulary alert. A couple of terms we have to talk about how it starts in the stomach. So you might have heard of that rumbling. We've all felt that rumbling when we're hungry in our stomach. It feels like our stomach is contracting, and that's what it is. It's contracting. And that term, I'll write it over here first. Let me write it. Then I'll say it. It's a weird name, right? So borborygmus, I'll say it again, borborygmus is the rumbling. That's the fancy term for rumbling of the stomach. And what it is all it is the stomach, your stomach, my stomach, when we're hungry, the stomach is contracting. Contracting, that is. Contracting out, right? It's contracting to push any remaining food, remaining food that is, and this is the food that wasn't digested, any remaining food into the intestines, into the small intestine. Okay, here's the small intestines right here, right? Here's the small intestines. Small intestines. All right, so again, the stomach is rumbling. It's pushing out, and the reason why it's rumbling is because it's pushing out any remaining food that was not digestible into the small intestines. So when that happens, then the stomach is empty, except for the acid, right? And it's going to produce a hormone. It's another vocabulary alert coming, another vocabulary word. I'll write it over here, use a different color. Use a different color. And it's called ghrelin. And I'll spell it for you. There's this weird H in the middle of it. Ghrelin. So ghrelin is this hormone. Finish spelling it first, right? It's this hormone that the stomach is going to trigger, and it's going to send it to the brain. It's the hunger hormone. There it is, the hunger hormone. All right, so just basically, again, the stomach is contracting. It's going to push out any remaining food into, and say the food is green stuff. Who knows what you ate? And this is the food that was undigestible, right? So every other food went into the small intestines. Now the stomach wants to empty itself out, and it's going to release right here, ghrelin. Right here, ghrelin sounds like gremlin. And with ghrelin that is, it's going to send this signal into the brain. Right? That seems pretty simple, right? Oh, and by the way, there's another vocabulary alert. Leptin. We'll write leptin over here. Leptin is another hormone. That's when your stomach is full. So when your stomach is empty, ghrelin, right? When it's full, leptin. Again, when it's empty, ghrelin, the hormone, and when it's full, leptin. And again, sending the signal to the brain. And like I said before, there's another reason why we are hungry also, which we'll get into, like I mentioned. Now, also, ghrelin, this hormone ghrelin, it's also used in other things, right? It could send signals to the pituitary gland to release growth hormones, it could help with insulin and so forth. But we're just talking about ghrelin as the hunger hormone for this video. And the part of the brain, let's get our use green. So the part of the brain that this signal, this ghrelin, is going to go into is here, the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus is going to release these appetite neurons. So the hypothalamus will release appetite neurons. You know, the body constantly wants energy. It wants to know that it has this energy. And that brings up the other thing I talked about is sometimes you're hungry for other reasons. Oh, by the way, here's the pituitary gland, which we mentioned before. So this whole thing, when we're eating just for energy, just for balance, when the body just needs that energy, it's called homeostatic hunger. Let's write that down. You might have remember homeostasis, where your body tries to control and balance everything going on in your body. So homeostatic hunger is the hunger that we just mentioned in this video. Your body needs energy. But then there's another type of energy. It's called hedonic hunger. And you might think of the word hedonism, right? The word of pleasure. So let's talk about that. So again, homeostatic hunger is let's say the normal hunger. That's what your body needs. Your body needs its energy reserves, so it's trying to control your appetite just so it can get its energy reserves. Now, hedonic hunger is hunger just for pleasure. It's just the food we love to eat. Now, obviously, you should be eating food for pleasure anyway, but this is specifically for food that we love eating. So when you're walking by and you smell that aroma, or you see something, like you see a cupcake, you're eating simply for pleasure. You may not even be hungry. That's hedonic hunger, and it's not so easily understood. And you can think of like dopamine release. So your brain has these reward circuits. You know, when you see something that you knew in the past that you loved, you knew you loved that cupcake, you knew you loved that steak, you knew you loved that Big Mac, whatever the case may be. And so what happens is when you pass this, when you smell something, when you see something, reward circuits are activated in the brain, and they will release this dopamine, which is that pleasure hormone. Right, so that's the difference between hedonic hunger and homeostatic hunger. So those are the two types. Now, which one is harder to control? Probably hedonic hunger, because you want that cupcake, you want that Big Mac, you want that Whopper, you want Brussels sprouts, maybe not. All right, so that's hunger. Why we are hungry.